flathead catch, fillet and cook in a remote coastal lake. Hi, my name's Roger Osborne. Today I've walked in through the bush and I've come to this amazing coastal lagoon, and there's actually some really good features that are getting me pumped. And my plan is to catch some beautiful flathead and then fillet it for you guys, teach you how to fillet flathead and then cook it. I'm mainly using lures, but I brought a few nippers as a backup, and I'm going to be teaching you everything that I'm doing along the way. And if you're finding these videos helpful, please make sure that you like and subscribe if you haven't already, because I really appreciate it. Let's get started. Look at the fish. Look in the water. They're trying to swim out. That's what they're trying to do. What's happened today, it's pretty rare. There just happens to be a huge spike in the swell today. There's massive waves, and this coastal lagoon, which is closed, the waves are breaking over the beach and washing in, and there's fish trying to get out. I can just see here, when the wave has come in, they're actually trying to get out. So they just saw us then and they took off back into the water. But when I saw this happening, because I know the surf was flat yesterday, but it's massive today, this is a real opportunity. I didn't know it would be like this, but it's really cool, because every time there's a massive wave, it's flushing into the edge of this lake. And all of these fish, they love that fresh salt water getting washed in. And my estimation would be that there's lots of fish that are going to be coming up into this lovely water that's being washed in. And I'll be tossing some lures in there in the hope of catching flathead and possibly brim. I did see a brim in there, but it will help over here as well. I just saw some huge swirls in the water just there. Just on the edge here. It's only maybe 2 feet, 3 feet deep, but something big was in there. I can see how those waves washing in from the ocean have actually cut away the bank here. Because the level of this sand would have been higher, but it's obviously on the last high tide, probably early in the morning. It was probably really pouring in here last night. I've got a couple of different lures that I'm going to try. It's not very deep just here, but it's always worth a cast. I'll just show you the lure that I'm going to use first. It's just a tiny little minnow with a little baby bib on it. So the fact that it's got such a small bib means it'll only dive probably half a metre, which is what I want, because in general the water won't be very deep. So I don't really want to be touching the bottom. So I'm just going to flick this little guy out. I'll show you what's in my tackle box in a minute if I decide to change lures. I'll try this one for a little while, and then we might switch over to a different one. I'm just going to flick it over near where the waves have been washing in. There could be a flathead or a brim or something that wants to grab it. It's not very deep here, maybe, like I said, only 2 feet. The lure that I'm doing, it's obviously not a soft plastic, it's not a vibe, so it's just a slow roll and let the lure do its work. Okay. It's only worth a few casts here because it's right in the shallow water at the entrance, but it's still, I've caught fish in shallow water like this before, so it's always worth a try. I can actually feel the lure hitting the bottom. So I think it'll be better to move into the main body of the lake. One more cast here. I can tell I picked up a bit of weed then, because you can feel the lure wobbling while it's working, and as soon as you pick up a bit of weed, the lure loses its action. So you've got to remove the weed. You can tell that straight away because it's vibrating and then it just stops all of a sudden. Alrighty, I think we'll move a little bit further into the lake. I'll try this lure for a little while longer, and then if I don't get any bites with that, I'll mix it up and try something different. as I'm walking around, I'm trying to estimate the depth. Ideally, I'd like to fish in water that's maybe 1 metre deep, or over the edges of where it goes from that sort of depth into deeper water. I've got my Polaroid sunglasses with me to help. Looks a little bit deeper just here, so I'm just gonna, and then it looks like it gets shallower to my right. And my plan is to actually walk out onto that shallow edge, because I can see even without my glasses that there's a point here where it drops off into the deeper water. And I'd like to walk right along that edge and toss my lures over the edge of that drop off. But before I head over there, I'm going to do that, have a little fish here. That little lure is so light, you've got to give it quite a flick to get it out. Okay, it's easier when the sun comes out to see. It's a little bit overcast before. I feel like I might have got a bit of weed again. Oh, I've got a fish. Oh, mate, that was quite a hit. I actually reckon that would have been a flathead, to tell you the truth. He may have another go, that fish. I'm hoping he does. I think it was a reasonable size. That's just encouraged me a little bit. I've got a fish. Woo! Oh! Whoa, what the heck? That hit it quite hard. Oh, it's a nice fish actually. Woo! Should get a nice view of him here. I'm not going to pull him in too quickly because he's pretty green. He might have another go on right on the edge here. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Wow. What a beautiful flathead that is. Now that is an amazing eating size flathead. I can see my line actually is wrapped around his gill plate. You can see the lure there in the side of his head. Man, because the water was so shallow, this guy leapt out of the water just like a surface fish. He's a beautiful flathead. He's probably about 50 centimetres long. But you know what, for my catch and cook, I've already got a fish. You can see he's actually been nailed by both sets of treble hooks. Now that guy is going to taste absolutely amazing. Wow, I think I'm going to have a couple more casts here. So, as I showed you before, this is the first lure I've put on. This beautiful little diver. This is called a chubby. It looks pretty chubby to me, this little lure, but obviously very effective. I've had 2 hits on this pretty quickly. I haven't had many casts, but when I got that flathead to the shore, I've only got it on pretty light line, so it actually broke the line. I'm going to retie the lure back on and have a couple more casts in this same area, because I did have another bite. The other bite was not that fish because I cast into a slightly different spot when I hooked that one, and that one actually took the lure in, looked to me, water to be about 2 feet deep, or that's what, just over half a metre deep. Wow, that was so exciting. So I've retied the lure back on. I just want to reiterate how important it is to check your line and make sure that there's no fraying when you catch a fish, because if your line is weakened and you cast it out again, you don't want to lose a really good fish. So I made sure I checked that. I mean, it had come off anyway, but just to make sure that the quality of the line at the end is really good. So let's just see if there's any more of those out there. My thinking was that there'd be a few fish here because of that salt water that's washing in. Just going to walk into the water a little bit. I'm holding my rod tip up a little bit because it's so shallow out there. I'm trying to avoid picking up weed. And I'm just feeling my lure vibrating as it comes in. Just at the initial point there, it was landing in water that's really shallow. Okay, so I've gone on a bit of an angle that time. You know, it's so shallow, but you never know You catch things where you don't expect it sometimes. I just saw a little bit of movement over there, so I'm just casting over that way. It really looks to me by eye to be only about half a metre deep. Okay, well no more bites yet. There's a lot of little mullet swimming around in here, so the flathead would be lying in wait for them. It's my intention to work my way around this whole area. At some point I'm going to walk over to the other side and go along the edge of that bank where all those fallen trees are and work my way around that edge. And I can also see a main drop off in there, and I want to work that edge, so I think I'll walk over this way a little bit. I can see that this lure is effective, so I won't swap it just yet. You know, very often if you get a hit, it's worthwhile casting into that same spot again, because if the fish is there, it may well have another go. So that's why I had a few casts before when I had a bite. I had a few casts in the same spot, hoping that that fish may have another go. Okay. Yeah, it looks really shallow along here. You can see all this, the back of this lake is amazing. It's quite wild. I'm just having a look at the action of this lure. I'm watching it. It floats. So it'll just sit there, but if I start to wind it, it dives down. But if I'm pulling it along, it's not going very deep, which is good. What I'm doing really is I'm just casting anywhere around here. Because the lure's so light, my main thing is to try and get as much distance as I can. So I'm casting a little bit low and sideways because it's quite windy, so that I can cover as much ground as possible. I'm just testing it all because you can get fish in really shallow water, like that other one, and it's very exciting when you hook a fish in shallow water. I'm just walking out, there's like a bit of a shallow sand spit here, and it definitely drops off over the edge here, and that fresh salt water has been washing through, so I'm just going to flick along the shore. Now I've got the wind behind me, it makes a big difference with the cast. Oh, I felt like I got some weed straight away then. I can tell my lure's not working. Oh, it started vibrating again, so the weed must have come off. You can't really avoid the weed that much. Got a fish. I think I've just had a hook up. This is bigger than the last one. It actually took it right on the edge. Still using that little minnow. Ooh. Wow. How awesome is this? What a great form of fishing. Oh. This is pretty light line. I think my leader's only 6 pound fluoro. And I don't have a net, so I'm going to need to just gently walk this guy back towards the shore. I was actually pulling my line then along the edge, parallel to where it drops off. I cast sideways along the drop off, and this fish grabbed it very close to where I was standing. You can see I'm being very gentle with it. He's already taken a couple of big runs. He probably will again. Oh man. It's in those moments, it's like, oh man, I hope that line's all right. Ooh. Just want to get him up here so I can show you. Okay, here he comes. Got to get his head towards the shore. Wow, what a fish. Look at that. Look at that. What a beautiful fish. What an absolute screamer. That's a wonderful flathead, that. On light line, that's amazing. He's reasonably well hooked. The kind of lure's got him, the bottom treble is in his mouth, and the top treble is kind of on top of his head. He's about, between 55, 57 centimetres probably. But a really beautiful eating fish. Just goes to show you, these kind of little coastal lagoons, there's hundreds of them up and down the coast, but they hold fish. And they don't have to be that big. It's amazing. I've fished a few of these sorts of places that are tiny, and you'd think there'd be no fish there, but they have some really good fish in them. Like that. Very happy. A few people have been asking about dispatching fish and the best ways to kill them. Obviously we bleed fish when we catch them, but the Japanese method of ikejime, there's different parts. Fish vary a little bit on their head where you need to spike them, but with a flathead, if you draw a line between its eyes and you form a triangle, now I'm not going to do it now, but essentially that is where the flathead's brain is. It's a triangle between the eyes. If I put the knife through there, that's going to dispatch that flathead really quickly. Regardless of the method that you use to quickly kill a fish, you need to bleed it. And you always do that straight away. If you use the ikejime method, part of that is then bleeding the fish, and there's also other steps to that as well, as things like putting your fish into an ice slurry. So I'm going to head back out onto this sandbar because this action is incredible. And I'm not going to change the lure because it's working. Actually, what I'm going to do, because I can see where this shallow sandbar drops off, I'm going to stand on the shore and I'm going to cast along the edge of it parallel. Because often fish will be just on the edge of that. And before I move further out, I just want to eliminate this bit of territory here. So I'm going to bring the lure. It's really only about, I just hit some weed actually. Yep. So you can probably see actually on the camera the contrast in the colour of the water, where you've got the lighter coloured water, which is where the sand is, and then it goes more of a darker browner colour where it drops off. So I'm just at the moment bringing my lure in along the edge there. So I got a bit more weed again then, so I just got to get rid of that. So when that water was being washed in by the waves, it was cascading over this edge, which would attract fish along that edge. I can see a few mullet jumping around the place. All right, I think I'm going to walk out and just pepper the edge a little bit more further out. My main target species today was flathead, and knowing that they are a bottom feeder and they're ambush predators that lie on the sand, you've heard me mention that in other videos, I needed to select a lure that would go close to the bottom. So therefore I needed to consider how deep the water is where I'm going to be fishing, because all the different lures have different depths that they'll dive, and really I only wanted a lure that would dive about 1/2 metre deep or 2 feet deep, because I was anticipating the water to be fairly shallow, and I didn't want to be dragging a lure that was necessarily digging into the bottom, mainly because of the weed and getting caught up on weed. If it was a purely sand bottom and there's no weed, well then you could actually bounce it on the bottom and that would be okay. But because there's a combination of weed and goodies in here, I purposely selected the lure so it only, really went a little bit below the surface, but it would be close enough to the bottom that a flathead could see it. And all I'm really doing now is prospecting. I'm casting in different locations, different directions. So I've had a few casts here, so now I'm going to continue to walk out along this edge. and work my way all the way to the other side. It's actually not, even though the water changes colour to my right, it's still not very deep. In fact, it still only looks half a metre deep, really. And I can see, even without the Polaroid glasses, that there's another drop-off further out where it's almost like the depth of the water here goes in steps. It's a certain depth for a while, then it gets a little bit deeper. A certain depth for a little while, then it gets a little bit deeper. Oh, look at that, heading for the mullet. Some big mullet in here, goodness me. Huge mullet. I'll have to come back and do a mullet fish, I think. You'd be surprised if I burleyed with some bread and fished with large bread baits in here, probably get a surprise what you'd catch. Got a fish. Okay, I just had a hook up. And I'm out in the middle of nowhere near the land. It's actually not far away from me. He took it right on the edge of that drop off. He's not as big as the other two fish, but he's probably about 40 centimetres long. Another flathead. Where are we? He's actually completely swallowed that lure. I can't even see the lure at all, unless it's underneath him. And no, it's on the side of his face actually. I'll bring him over near where you can see him. You can see the lure just on that side. I couldn't see it before. So I'll have to take him to the shore to get him off. So I can't really do anything about it out here in the water. I didn't need to release that fish, he just got off anyway. So that's all good. All right, I'm gonna have a couple more casts here. So that's 3 flathead on this little lure so far. I just flicked it over in between these trees before. Just was pulling it along that edge. Okay, hopefully I don't get hooked on one of those submerged trees. I've seen a lot of mullet over there, so that could be good for, I mean, of all sizes, for attracting flathead. So it's worth me walking over there and having a few casts. See, I just saw another mullet jump. I'm starting to feel hungry. So I think I'm just going to try one more section of the lake and then I'm going to fillet one of those flathead and we're going to cook it up. It's going to be good. I have another fish here, but I'm out in the middle of nowhere. It's not a big fish. I'll probably let him go. He's probably legal, but maybe only about 38 centimetres. But another flathead though. But I've waded out a long way to work my way back. This has been an enjoyable exercise. I haven't seen any while I've been walking, which sometimes you do. See fish, you disturb them and they take off. But this is undoubtedly a healthy system. Some nice fish in here. Oh, I can see a very big flathead lie right there actually. I just walked past one, which was obviously a big fish. Wow, I haven't really been looking for flathead lies. Actually, to tell you the truth, There's a couple here. Okay, so that's signs that there's more and bigger fish. All right. Here he is. He's got one treble in the side of his mouth. The lure is kind of slightly backwards or sideways on him. I'll bring him up. I'll just gently bring him up on the shore here. Okay, there you go. Okay. All right, so the trick is now to get him off without getting spiked and let him go. He wasn't going to get away with those hooks where they are. I think I'm going to carefully hold him in place with my foot and pull this first treble out if I can. Not always easy to do. Okay, I was able to extract the lure without too much difficulty, and I'm going to gently put this guy back in the water's edge. I don't need him, I've got two beautiful fish to eat, so I'm just going to pop him over there and watch him swim away. Okay, time to get the fire started. Oh, well, not the fire, the gas really, and cook up. We'll fillet one of those flathead first, and I'm feeling hungry. I'm just going to show you, before I do that, I'll show you all the lures that I brought with me. I didn't bother changing from this one because it's been working on the fish. So why change something when it's working? So I've got everything set up ready to start cooking, but I wanted to show you first what I brought with me in the way of lures. It's a little tangle of lures. There's a variety of those little ones. These are all very similar to the lure that I used today, with very small bibs, really chunky. This one's called, the brand is Atomic. Then I obviously have the big sugar pen in there. That one. These are whiting lures, but you catch flathead on them as well. So you can see I've got a variety of goodies in here. Another one like that looks like a little prawn. Fantastic. I think these would have worked just as well, although these ones are not divers, they're surface lures. So I kind of opted for the one with the little bib. I've got a few other bits and pieces in here which are not really suitable. They've got, the bib on them is too long, they're too deep. Look at that nice tangle of lures there. Anyway, I just thought I'll bring this container. I knew it had a few goodies in there. I also had some soft plastics. In my bag I had 2 or 3 packs of soft plastics with a few jig heads as well. And some nippers, which I'm going to let go because I didn't need them. Now I've just shown you the lures that I brought with me, and I'm going to start filleting this flathead. There are a couple of different ways that you can do it. One that's a little bit more fiddly, and you really go around the whole bone structure, but I'm going to do it the quick way, so we're just going to start that now. Now I have not scaled or gutted this flathead because I'm going to skin it. So really all I'm going to do is I'm going to come up underneath this wing just here, just cut. I want to come right up to the top, right to the back of the head, so that I don't waste any of the meat. So I'm just going to come underneath these 2 flaps and cut really straight through to the backbone of the fish. You can see that cut there. I've actually sacrificed a little bit of flesh there. Should have gone up a little bit higher. Now when I get to this point, when I get to the back point, I'm actually going to turn at a right angle. I'm going to hold this part of the fish and I'm going to run my knife along the backbone on a slight angle so that it runs up against the backbone of the fish. And so you can see there, I've taken half of that flathead off in one go. You can see this is a female flathead. You can see the egg sacs there actually. So I've taken that fillet off, one half of the flathead, so now I'm going to flip it over, basically do the same thing, just cut up underneath these flaps a little bit, get under there, onto that one, come up against the head, get down to the backbone, and now I'm going to run I've actually got to cut through bones at this point. Once you get to the second half of the fish, there's not really any bones in the bottom half of the fish. So you can see I've taken 2 fillets off there. I haven't wasted much. I've wasted a little bit. I've been a little bit quick.
Can you start that again? I haven't wasted much.
Yep. I haven't wasted much. I've wasted a tiny bit up there. I've done it pretty quickly, but you can see there what's left of that fish. Really, it's just a head and the backbone of the fish. So I'm going to set that aside. Now I'm going to skin these fillets, which is what my normal habit is. So I'm lying the fillet down like so. Just got to make sure I'm on this tree here, so it's a bit rocky. It's not perfectly flat where I am. So what I'm going to do now, and my hands are a little bit slippery, so I'm just going to apply a bit of pressure to that. I'm going to put my knife in here at the end, like so. Now I'm running it on an angle towards the skin and the scales, and now I can hold on to the end. I'm just going to zigzag my way along. You can see there where the skin and scales are coming off, and you've got that lovely flesh there. So I'm going to hold on to this nice and tight and just keep my knife at that angle and really wiggle it. So you can see now there is the, well, you see the skin side, there's the scales on that side, and what I've got here at the moment is really, that's all that beautiful flesh. Now at this point here, there's a row of bones that start just here. They stop at this point. From here back, there's no bones. That's the flathead tail right there. So what I'm going to do actually is this row of bones here, just got to balance it on this wobbly cutting board. I'm going to bring my knife up against the edge of that row of bones, and I'm just going to run my knife along the side of them. I can feel it, and then down along the edge of those bones to the bottom. So essentially the bones are just here. The last one is about there. So this section here has no bones in it. This part of the flathead is a little bit more challenging. So all of that's beautiful flesh with no bones. The bones finished there. I'm actually going to just cut around that end bit of bone there and cut this section of bones out. Okay, it's going to get on this side here. Just going to pull that out. So this thin strip really has got all the main bones in it. I can feel them like a saw blade as I run my finger down there. So that's one side of the flathead there. Now I'm actually going to, because you do get a few bones, the odd bone over in this section as well. I'm going to run my fingers actually along this side. You get a couple of bones along here. I can feel one just in there, but I'm not going to remove those at this point in time. I'm going to move on to the other fillet. So this afternoon or tonight we're having flathead fish tacos. I love fish tacos. We make them a lot at home, and I've found Nature's Table, which is so epic, so beautiful out here. I've got my burner going with my fry pan and my oil. I've cut the flathead fillet into little strips that'll fit in the flour tortillas beautifully. So I've got my beautiful pieces of flathead. I've got some egg. I just brought some panko breadcrumbs in a bag, and once I put the fish fillets in the egg, I'm going to toss them in the breadcrumbs, the panko crumbs. Then we're going to just fry them up nice and golden. We've got our flour tortillas. I also made a mango salsa. I pre-made that. I'm not making the mango salsa down here, but it only has 4 ingredients, which I'll explain to you. And we've got some lovely mayonnaise and some salt. So the fish tacos will be the taco, the panko crumb flathead, mango salsa with the mayo. Ooh, very good. I'm just sitting in this position because the wind is blowing in off the ocean. I just want to shield the gas a little bit so that the oil can get hot. I don't really want to put the fish in if the oil's not hot enough. So just going to let that heat up a bit, and I'll let myself be a foil for the wind. So I'm going to get the fish ready now. All I've done is I brought some egg in a takeaway container. I'm going to throw these little pieces of fish straight in there and just coat them nicely in that egg. Just get a good coating of those. Cover them well, and then all I'm simply going to do now, because I'm not at home, I'm not in the kitchen, This is bush. I'm just going to basically get these fillets that I've coated in the egg. They're nice and slippery. Can't even pick them up, they're so slippery. I'm going to whack them in the crumbs here. Just get them covered with the crumbs, put the last two in. I've got 6 beautiful pieces there and none of them will be left. I'm going to eat the lot. Not by myself though. My very wonderful, helpful camera lady is going to enjoy this beautiful flathead with me. Alrighty, so these fillets have had a nice roll in the panko crumbs. That works pretty good. You can see them in there. So, you know, certainly, I mean, if you're camping or you're wanting to have a picnic, you could do this sort of stuff outside, no problems. It's not a lot of preparation, and making the salsa is really easy, but it's so good. Alrighty, so now I'm going to get ready to cook this. I'm just going to be taking the flathead fillets straight out of the bag and placing them in the fry pan. But I'm going to sit up here to block the wind again, because I don't really want the wind taking the heat out of it. Just want to make sure it's nice and hot. It's been sitting on there for a little while, so what I actually might do is I might do a test one. I'm not going to just throw them all in. I want to put one piece in and make sure that there's enough heat in the pan. So I'm going to get this guy. There's a little bit of sizzling starting to go on, so that's good. But I might just wait a minute before I put the next piece in. Rather than putting all 6 pieces in one go. Okay, well that's nice, and it's hotter on that side actually. Just going to flip that oil around a little bit. So that's good. I'm going to put another piece. Yeah, that's hot over there. I was thinking maybe I don't put them all in, but I will, because there's enough heat in it. I'll put these couple of pieces in the middle, and then I'll swirl the oil around a little bit. These little morsels are going to be so good in those flour tortillas with the mango salsa. I'm going to grab my tongs. Okay, well they're sizzling quite nicely. Really good. I just want to make sure that the pan is centered on the flame. You know how sometimes your pan can get off to one side and there's more heat on one side? Seems like there's more heat on this side, probably because the wind's blowing this way. So I'm going to let those guys sizzle for a minute. I'm not going to turn them just yet. Sounds great. I'm going to move them around a little bit, rearrange the furniture, because get them on that hot side. It is actually about dinner time. We've got a little bit of daylight left, just enough time to cook dinner. So I'm hungry, I'm ready for it. So I think I actually should probably turn these in just a second. I can see the white of the flesh cooking from the bottom up. Like if I turn this piece around here, you can see obviously it's becoming white along there. It looks raw on top but white on the bottom. And I can see that happening to some of those other pieces as well. So just going to let them sizzle just a little bit longer. I'll just let that oil move around in amongst them a little bit. I can see some of the crumbs are looking quite golden that are just in the oil. Okay, I think I can turn them over now. So look at that, that looks pretty good. Wow. Beautiful. Flathead by the sea. They look great, nice and golden. Woohoo! So I think it's just about ready. Just give it maybe another minute. I've needed to sit here because this southeasterly wind has come up a bit stronger. So I've needed to, I'm in a pretty exposed spot, so I've needed to shield the gas, but there's certainly enough, it's come up nice and golden, so there's enough heat to cook it well. So I think it's time actually to assemble our fish tacos. We have fish tacos all the time in my house. We are addicted to fish tacos. They are that good. So now I'm going to make them up. So basically I've got my pieces of fish here, and in each tortilla I'm going to put 2 pieces of fish, like that. I mean, you can have one long bit, like so. Turn that one around, I'll put the fat piece in the middle. So there's my 2 flour tortillas. I'm going to leave these other 2 pieces of fish in the pan, which we'll just eat with a bit of mayo. And then I'm going to put a nice little squirt of this delicious mayo on top of the fish, like that. That's probably enough. A little bit of salt on there. And then last of all, we're going to put on the mango salsa. You can see all that lovely mango in there. The mango's a great addition to the salsa. Now these obviously you just eat with your fingers, and I get to be the guinea pig to eat some, which is... So there we have 2 beautiful flathead fish tacos. Make sure I balance that so I don't lose the other one on the sand. So it's a beautiful little parcel just like that, and I can feel the warmth of that flathead now. Oh. That is so delicious. So simple. Really easy way to cook fish. So these are so delicious, fantastic, really healthy, super healthy with the salsa, delicious flathead. I use brim to make soft taco or fish tacos as well. Such a great meal. So thank you so much for watching this video. Had a great time catching those flathead earlier on that little minnow in a beautiful location. And actually, I need to tell you about the salsa. There's only 4 ingredients. There's tomato, finely chopped Spanish onion, finely diced mango, and coriander or cilantro. 4 things, that's all. And it's absolutely delicious. If it's wintertime in Australia, we substitute pineapple for mango because you can't get mangoes in winter. But if you buy a pineapple at the supermarket, leave it on your kitchen bench until it goes nice and golden, they work really well in fish tacos. So thank you so much for watching this video. It's a little bit different to my other ones. I'm in a different location, doing something a little bit different. It's the first time I've done a catch and cook. Please give me a thumbs up. Let me know what you think in the comments and ask any questions. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.